We're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Self-Publishing Insiders. I'm Jim Azevedo, and I lead marketing for the Draft2Digital team here. And today, we have a special episode because I have two of my friends and colleagues from Draft2Digital joining. The first is Lexi Green, who runs social media, and she's on the customer support team. And secondly, we're always thrilled when our director of customer support joins us. Welcome back to the show. I'm having trouble talking today, but that's okay. Welcome back, Tara, Director of Customer Support.
Thanks.
Woohoo. Hey, well, Tara, I had this big applause button I was going to press, and I evidently have to hold it down. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like a splash. It sounded like water splashing.
Man, no. I'm such a professional here. But we have a lot to get through today. So today is an Ask Us Anything episode, but there's just so many questions that come through Tara's team. The topics are changing all the time. As all of you know out there in author land and in the indie community, our industry is changing. It seems like by the second. And Tara and her team have to field all these questions and these changes as they're changing, well, dynamically and all the time. So I want to hop right into it, Tara. Right off the bat, let's say we've got an author who they've already checked out our frequently asked questions. So they're online, they're on our website, they've checked out our facts, but they can't find what they're looking for. So if an author needs help from support, what information should they include in their first message to get the fastest response from you and your team?
Excellent question. I'm glad you asked this because I really want authors to know this. Okay. Sometimes authors come in with their emails and you're assuming we know more than we do. I need to know your book title. If it's an account situation, your account as a whole that you're asking me about, your email address. Those are the two things that will get me there the fastest. Authors will often say, hey, my series, The Underworld, is having some sort of problem. Searching by series is possible, but difficult. Okay. Especially difficult when I don't know, is it every book in the series? So being specific about book titles and email addresses will get us there so much quicker and stop a lot of the back and forth. I want to help you, but I'm going to need this information from you. So starting with that is always, always best.
Okay, book titles, email information. Got it. Can you walk us through what happens sort of behind the scenes after an author submits that support request and you've got their email address and you've got their book title?
Yes, absolutely. So step one, your email comes into a team, a whole team of people. It's not just one of us or a few of us. We've got an entire team here working the queue. We have a little bit of a siloed group where some of us are experts on certain things. One of our team members is an expert on print. So if your book is geared towards a print question, then you're going to be working with her. Another gentleman is our content review team lead. And so if your question is related to that, you'll be working with him. But what we do is we assign you into the team or the team member that will know the best answer and be able to answer you the fastest. That way, you know you're talking to an expert on that topic. And of course, if someone on the team doesn't know the answer, they're going to escalate that on up to someone else and get extra help. And that sometimes happens. Just things come up. But once we get your ticket, once we get it assigned, someone is going to respond to you. They're going to take a look directly at your issue. So they're
not just an automated reply. There's actual human.
Absolutely not. We don't use any sort of AI or any automation to do our customer support. They are human beings. So everyone keep that in mind. These are all human beings. They're all going as quickly as they can. And they're all taking a look as a human would look at your question, your account, your book. Sometimes we're opening files. I'm trying to find, somebody will say the chapter heading isn't staying with the chapter itself. So I'm opening your original Word document. I'm going in, I'm looking at how the back end of it was created. And then I'm figuring out how a solution to your problem. So it's a human being, and we're manually resolving these issues. And then, of course, we respond to your question and we get you answers as quickly as we can.
Love it. Thank you for that answer. Do you have an example of something that authors often worry about that actually turns out to be easier to fix than they might think? This could be new authors or even authors who are quite experienced.
You know, it's kind of funny just being in this role.
Mm-hmm.
The things that authors will worry about. I've had authors ask me questions about things like their publisher name showing up on a store site. Occasionally, when we get a new vendor, it will list Draft2Digital as the publisher. That is something that we typically work out with the vendor because we want your publisher name to be the name representing you, not us. We are a create service. We're not your publisher. So we definitely want your name there. But on occasion, this happens. And authors get really, really worried that it's going to look unprofessional. I want them to flip the script and think from a reader's perspective. You're going online, you're going to buy a book, you're going to read a book. When did you ever scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page and look in the book details under the publisher field and go, oh, this is self-published? Skip. Nobody does that. Readers don't do that. They're reading your book description. They're looking at your book cover. So those are the things that you want to pay attention to. If possible, put money towards. You've got seconds to grab that reader. I promise you, they're not looking at your ISBN number. They're not looking at your publisher's name. They're looking at your book cover and your book description. They want those things to catch their attention and be, oh, this is a book I want to read. That's the kind of thing that you really want to worry about, a little less some of the other minute details. Readers just, they don't even know.
They move on. Yeah.
They just move on. Yeah. They don't even know.
Okay. Excellent. So speaking of moving on, so when I get to that next level, let's talk a little bit about distribution to retailers and libraries. Let's start first, specifically, if you don't mind, with ebooks.
Yep.
So a lot of authors are coming to us because they want to go wide. In other words, if you haven't heard that term going wide, we're talking about distributing widely to retailers and to libraries. So if we want to talk about going wide the right way, can you talk a little bit about how pricing and metadata propagates from Draft2Digital out to all of our retail channels and library channels?
Yes, absolutely. That's a question that comes up quite a bit. People often ask, you know, if I change my book file, will that information make it out to prior buyers? So somebody who's already bought the book, will it make it to the library services? Great questions to ask, because you definitely want your readers to get the most up-to-date version of your book. But once you hit publish and you are submitting in a wide format, we're taking the metadata of your book, your book files, your cover, all of that, and we are submitting it wide. We've got 16 different vendors that we're submitting to. And those vendors have various timelines for how quickly they can receive and update those files. We are Draft2Digital, we are Smashwords. We know that our files reach our Smashwords server within about an hour. It's very, very quick. But Overdrive, a library service, it can take weeks. They tend to focus on new releases. So for those authors who are pushing a back catalog of old content, if your release date is a couple of years old, they're going to set that book aside and focus on new releases.
Well, that's not their highest priority. It
is not their highest priority. They want to get new releases out first. Obviously, your book will get out there, but it could take us full 2 weeks to publish on a library service. Library services are a little slower, and they're going into a network, a software where librarians and curation managers are accessing these files. They're looking through and trying to determine, will this book make a good book for our library system?
Sure. So they also have a manual process and actual human beings who have to curate.
Absolutely, they do. So when authors write in and say, you've published my book on Overdrive and I'm on Overdrive and I can't find my book, the library platform you are using to access it has to purchase the book before it's available for your library platform. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So the Tulsa library system has to buy my book before I can then check out and read my book. So just having it out there, all that really means in the library system space is libraries can buy your book. Librarians can access your book. They have access to it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was purchased for a library system.
Gotcha.
Now let's talk about real quickly a delist. Authors are often saying it's still visible. Well, a library system purchases a book for their library system, and they can lend that book in perpetuity. Is that how I say that word? Is that right?
Yep. Yes.
They can lend that book forever. Once delisted, what that means is no new library systems can purchase that book, but those that have already purchased it can continue to read the book. And if they purchased it through one copy, one user, you're going to continue making sales up until the delist. So don't let that frighten you.
Okay.
That's normal. That's expected behavior. But that's how it kind of works. That's going wide. And just in case there are listeners out there that have not heard the good news, on September 9th, 2025, Amazon, which requires, when you're in their Kindle Unlimited program, requires you to be exclusive to Amazon. September 9th, 2025, they changed their terms of service to allow authors who are enrolled in KU to also put their books on library services. This is new and this is big. They've always locked you out. Amazon only. That was the rule. Now they're saying you can be at Amazon and on library services and still within their terms of service. So any author out there that uses KU, consider getting your books on libraries and having another revenue stream in addition to your Amazon revenue.
Yeah,
honestly, that was a huge one. I remember the week that we found that out. I think some people on our team were at conferences that week, and that's what authors were talking about. People want the chance, even if they're in KU, to get to more readers, and libraries are more readers.
Absolutely. And there are so many library systems out there where literally the librarians are calling and emailing Draft2Digital and saying, we love this author. We want this author. Can you give us this author? And in the past, if they were in KU, I had to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't. Now I can get your books there. Of course, as long as the author wants their books on library services. But yes, it was so big, and so many authors wrote in saying, is this real?
Yeah.
Can I trust this? You know, there was nerves there. Like, I don't want to upset Amazon, but yes, it's real. And definitely it should be something we're all taking advantage of.
There was a lot of anxiety there because the rumors started, I think it was back in May of 2025, where it was like an individual customer support person at Amazon was telling an individual author that, we're going to allow you to send your books to libraries. And then that author was starting to communicate online through all the socials. Right. Then other authors were like, really? Can that actually happen? And then it became this big rumor, but there was so much fear until Amazon months later actually said, yes, you can. Well, your books are enrolled in KDP Select or in KU. You can send your books to libraries. And just like KU is a visibility engine, so are libraries. And we're not just talking about libraries here in the US. We're talking about libraries and library systems worldwide.
Yeah, that's the Overdrive system. Honestly, all of the libraries we work with, there's such a width of access that gives to readers. We actually had a question that, sorry to pull up, it was mentioned. This seems like a good segue. Anas Rabai from Facebook asked, is Draft2Digital somehow international or very oriented toward the US market? Our partners, both retail and library, are incredibly international. We go to all of the markets where Apple's available, Amazon's available. All of our library partners, I believe most of them operate in international markets, and even our print partners distribute through international markets as well. So like there is obviously there are some markets where we service more than others. Some of our partners are more accessible in other regions, but we do at this point publish across the globe. So like getting your book into a variety of vendors is a great way to get your book across regions at this point.
Yeah.
Yes. I often have authors who write in and express surprise that my book sold in Germany, and I never would have expected that. It's an English language book.
Yep.
And, I remind authors, yeah, you're worldwide. You are a worldwide author at this point. You're selling everywhere.
Now, during the publishing process, our authors have that ability to, they set their prices through their dashboard, but then we automatically, what am I trying to say here? That we automatically set the currency per the current levels for each of these different regions. But our authors still have the ability to go in and manually set their prices per country if they would like to, right?
Yes, that is correct. We call it territorial pricing.
Thank you.
Yes. Every author has access to territorial pricing. You go on the last page of publishing, step 4, publishing for ebooks. There's a button underneath the USD field where you can set up territorial pricing. You do not have to. What we're doing is we're sending today's current currency converted rate into each region, into Australian dollars, Canadian dollars, and so on. So we're doing whatever you set in USD. We're doing the current conversion rate into the various different territories, and we're sending it that. However, you control that. If you would like to set a specific price for New Zealand, and this comes up quite a bit with Apple promotions, they will often say, we want to run a 99-cent promo for these regions. 99 cents in US dollars is a little higher in Canadian dollars. So our currency conversion would send, $1.99 or $2.99 in Canadian dollars. But for a 99-cent promo, you could literally go in there and just set each territory at 99 cents. So it gets submitted at that rate, the rate that Apple is asking you to submit it at. So you control that. You also control where your book goes. We are a wide platform. We encourage wide. That means more revenue streams coming into you. But let's just say you sold your US rights. And this comes up. We've got plenty of authors who have limited rights because they have sold a portion of their rights. We have the option to manage your geographical reach. You can exclude or include. So if you've sold your US rights, you can exclude publication in the United States. Or if you're only allowed to publish in the United States, you can include the United States and exclude everyone else. So we've got a very highly refined and responsive website that allows authors to do whatever they need to do to own their product. They can sell it in any price range and territory that we have available to us.
Okay. Thanks for covering territorial pricing and using or adding that use case to kind of help explain it.
Yeah.
I want to bring up a quick customer question, or I'm sorry, a viewer question. This kind of hit on what we were talking about before and what could sort of kind of clog up the gears sometimes. So let me just bring this up. This is from Sidra Jabin 12, who asks, I have self-published my 2 books about a week ago, and still they're showing publishing. Why does this happen sometimes, Tara?
Yep. What I would suggest, okay, it can happen 2 different ways. One is if we're doing a manual review on an account, that can slow things down. And this comes up whenever things, when we've got to check on things, some different things. Maybe the tax information didn't get input or didn't get accepted, or there's questions. That's less common. What is more common is there is a delay in our website determining that your book is active and live. Why does that happen? We use web crawlers, web bots, whatever you want to call it, to go to the various stores. We're actually checking our work. Did we really send this book to Barnes & Noble? Did we really send this book to Kobo? We're checking our own work. We're going to that website. We're pasting in the ISBN. But not only do we want to see the book there, we want to see a buy now button or add to cart button. So we're checking on things and making sure your book is really active and live. Now let's say that this other website, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, some other website, changes a server URL. This happens. It happens all the time. It happens to everyone. Some little tweak. And now our site is not talking to their site correctly or accurately. Not a big deal. It's just one of those things where our dev team, our operations team will go in and they'll make a connection with the server or the operations team on the other side. And they'll say, hey, we're not detecting books right now. And they'll say, oh, we changed a URL. Let's get that fixed. Let's get your server whitelisted. Let's do this. Let's do that. But this can cause delays. So today, before we got onto this podcast, I answered several tickets where they were saying, it's been taking a while for my book to show up live at Barnes & Noble. Yeah, it has been taking a while. Your book is there. Your book is active and live. Go pull up the Barnes & Noble website, type in your book title. You'll see it there. It's just our site is delayed in reading it, in recognizing that it's there. Doesn't mean that buyers can't find it. Absolutely, they can find it. It's just two sites connecting and talking to each other, and things come up. Servers go down, URLs get changed, things like that. Things come up.
Technology,
exactly. Yeah. I often have authors say, "Can't you just hit the button?"
I don't think something the marketing guy would say. Just put a button there. Come on, you guys.
It's a little more complicated than that. And
whatever, Tara.
We need to appreciate the amount of back end work that obviously the other dev teams, other companies, but also our dev team has done to make this level of detection possible. I also wanted to bring up when your book says it's in publishing, that doesn't necessarily mean it's in publishing everywhere. Some places it might already be published. It stays in publishing until the last. I'm sorry if you're hearing my cat in the background at this point. Until the last place goes live with it, it will be in publishing. And as Tara said earlier, platforms like libraries can take a little longer to go live. So you can definitely go into your book project and check which book is currently, which score is still processing. That way you can give more information if you do want to reach out to support to see what might still be going on. But if it is libraries, just remember the libraries do take typically a little longer, especially that 2-week range for some libraries is not uncommon.
Very much so. Good point.
I love these episodes because I learned so much from you guys. It's funny. I want to shift gears here a little bit and talk about content quality and our policy. So first, low content, mass produced stuff and the quality of all of that. Where do we draw the line?
Great question. With all of the various AI software out there, there's so many good things about AI, and there's so many helpful tools that authors are using and accessing. But on the flip side, there are content farms. This is where there's no human involvement. This is machine generated. They can put out books rapidly.
Okay, so how many books are we talking about here, Tara?
Thousands. I mean, they can.
I want the audience to know this.
Yes, they can create, upload, and distribute thousands. I mean, just rapid. That's not what we're not interested in that. we don't want to be a repository for that type of low content. Often it is little more than just a copy paste off of the Wikipedia pages.
Yeah.
You, the reader, can go read that yourself, and you don't have to pay money to go read Wikipedia pages. It's just not something that readers are into.
It's like a money grab situation. It sounds.
It is. It's content farming, and
because they know that a lot of this content is never going to pass muster. It's never going to even get out there.
Yes.
But they're just like flooding the market with
They
hundreds
are.
of thousands of books.
They
just
are.
something's going to get through.
That's absolutely true. So we do have a standard in publishing, but we are not referring to AI assisted. That is legit. That is helping a lot of authors refine their techniques, get better, bounce ideas, editing, proofreading. You know, that's great. Wonderful. We love that. We want a clean file. We want a typo-free file. That's what readers want to read. But what readers don't want to read is a copy and paste of a Wikipedia page. So just keep that in mind. You know, we're doing what we can as far as quality control. And we're human. We don't use bots to do our job. So we're human. We're reading these books. If we get it wrong, write into support. Let us know. We want to get this right. We want to get this right. I had a book come up this week that had been flagged as potential AI generated. I dug into that book and found that the author is an expert in that particular field. Wonderful. That's all I need to know. I trust that when you are an expert in this field, you know what you're talking about. And, you know, so we can get it wrong and we will correct it when we get it wrong. But that's where our guidelines kind of fall when it comes to that type of stuff.
Okay.
We really want human authored content more than bot authored content.
Yeah, authors, I just want to remind you, like, we have your backs, and that's what we've been doing for the last almost 20 years now, and we will always have your backs. So we got you. But I want to know, Tara, speaking of having authors' backs, and given the influx of all this machine generated stuff from content farms, how is that impacting your team's response times?
It has
and morale.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It has slowed us down quite a bit. It is a lot to plow through. I believe since the last time we did one of these, we implemented a limit, a threshold limit to how many you can upload in a day. Okay. And that is a direct result of these content farms bombarding our site. So we've had to, unfortunately, limit how many we can accept. And that helps us to give you an actual human review by a human, not a bot, that allows us to look at and determine, yes. And the readers like me who have been, I'm an avid reader. I read so many books a year, just in this role, but outside of this role as well. Yeah. You can tell the difference. You can tell the difference when an author has a human has some involvement in the creation of the book. But what I would tell readers, or what I would tell these authors is, would a reader feel served by this? If it's nothing more than a copy of a Wikipedia page, then no, they're not being served by this. We want you to get your book out there and get your book wide. And the only way we can do that is if we can limit those content farming AI bots.
Yeah. And serving readers is like the thing that, like, it benefits the authors that we're trying to make sure that we're creating a good reader experience, because now more than ever, keeping the reputation of self-publishing, like, we've worked very hard over the years to make sure that self-publishing has earned some reputation, has gained some legitimacy in the industry. And this kind of mass creation of, AI product, that hurts the reputation. People do start to look and go like, oh, well, can I trust the self-publishing books that are coming out if they're all just being generated by a machine? And like a lot of these processes we implement, even if they create kind of more limits on what authors can submit, like it is in the service of making sure that the industry and you as an author are still looked at with that integrity and that reputation. Like even putting a limit on how many books can be uploaded, for a first-time author that's bringing their library, it might be relatively inconvenient. But in the case of most authors, you're not submitting as many books in a day as these content farms are. So this is truly we're working on all the tools that can just limit that influx of just mass content so that your books can still continue to shine and we as an industry can continue to thrive.
Yeah, well said, Lexi. Like we
Very.
worked so hard to eliminate that stigma to being a self-published author, and we're not about to let that regress back to 2007 and 2008. It's not going to happen. So thanks, Lexi. Real quickly, what about public domain books, Creative Commons books, found online content? Can you give some definitions, just real quickly, some definitions and guidelines here?
Yes. Well, one of the things that I just want to clear up, public domain, it's confusing for authors, especially first-time authors, especially people who aren't living this industry. That does not mean the book is available to the public. That's not what that means. And I often find that is a point of confusion. Public domain is a book that is in the public domain because the author has passed away. The author's heirs have passed away. Every country has different rulings. In the United States, I believe it's like 70 years after the author's death, it enters into the public domain. So these are older works, and they're prolific. There are websites out there that house all of these old works. They're easy to get your hands on. They're not something that we typically accept or publish because they are freely available out there on the internet. We want to be a source for new content, fresh content. That doesn't mean that those books can't be sold because they are in the public domain. So they are free to copy and sell, but that's not really what we are looking to receive. There's some Creative Commons where you're commercially making it available to anyone to copy and sell. Again, that's really not the type of content we want to work with. We want to work with you as an author who owns the exclusive rights to these books so that we can bring those books out there and get it wide to as many people as we can reach. But that's kind of the difference is public domain does not mean freely available to the public. It means the licensing and copyrights have expired and now it's in the public domain.
Got it. Thanks, Tara. I want to ask one more question in the policy realm here that I want to shift over to print.
Okay.
Just real quickly, when it comes to multiple accounts, pen names, and imprints, is there a right way of setting that up? For example, would it be like one account per person? So, how do you use pen names and publishing accounts correctly?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question because we do it differently than a lot of other sites. Okay. On Draft2Digital, we actually created the website to manage multiple pen names. So if you are one of those authors that writes in the romance genre, but also in young adult, and you really don't want there to be any cross-contamination, we've got you. That's how our site was created. You can create on a single account as many pen names as you would like. You can specify to yourself, this is my sci-fi pen name, this is my romance pen name. And then we on the Draft2Digital team are very, very careful to not allow any cross-contamination. Your other works will only display the other works by that pen name. So you don't have to worry about your romance books getting tossed in there and advertised with your young adult. We keep all of that separate. So we expect you to use a single account. And then from there, you have the ability to manage various pen names. I think I've got an account that I've tested up to 56 pen names. So the sky's the limit. And we will manage it all from the back end and keep your identities separate and unique and private as far as your other readers are concerned. You know, your young adult will never know about your romance. That has been, I've had authors express that concern to me. They're like, I got to be really careful about this because I do write in different genres. Understood. A lot of authors do that. That's awesome that you have that depth and scope. But we got you. We can handle that through a single account. You under your account, you will see contributor profiles. And so you can just set up, think of the word contributor as pen name. You can just set up as many of those as you would like to write under. And we also have large publishing houses that submit for individual authors under individual pen names. So we can manage it very, very well on our end.
Okay, I was going to make that comparison to publishers because obviously, you know, like you said, large, small publishers, they can use D2D, and we don't want, obviously, their the variety of authors that they are working with showing up in each other's like also buy sections.
Right.
So when you're creating a new pen name, you as the account holder, the publisher, are creating a completely separate author identity. And it is important to us that there is a distinction between those two. Never the twain shall meet, as you know they say.
Okay,
I like it.
So let's make a little bit of a switch here into D2D print. So D2D print is our print-on-demand publishing capability, our service there, and it's been growing really rapidly. And with that, I wanted to bring up a quick question from Anas. This is a good question. What's the percentage of ebook sales compared to print books? And do ebooks play an important role in making the author known? So not a customer support question primarily, but I think it's worth bringing up. And I think in particular, in some cases, it depends on the genre. So if you write, let's say, contemporary romance or any romance for that matter, you're dealing with an audience that is just voracious readers. Like these are the readers who are reading a book a day or 300 books a year, and they're just tearing through books. So I have found through authors I've met through the years that some of them report 10 ebook sales to every one print book sale, and in some cases 100 ebook sales to every one print book sale. Ebooks, you can also distribute your ebooks everywhere. I mean, to all the library systems, to all the global online retailers. Bookshop.org is now accepting self-published ebook titles from Draft2Digital. But with that said, the research shows that the majority of readers out there still prefer books in print, right? You're pointing to yourself.
I think that there is still a romance to having a physical book. There, like, you know, there's a tactile experience. There's something that feels very familiar about it. Like you said, I'm pretty sure we don't have the numbers on hand right now, but the majority of books that are purchased are still purchased in print. And even as most of our books are not yet in print, like a lot, we continue to add just hundreds of print books each week, each day, probably at this point. But like the majority of our books are still sold as ebooks, and even still, like the more print books we are publishing, the more we are seeing those sales numbers continue to rise. There's still a huge demand for print books. If your books aren't in print yet, I firmly recommend that that's still a market that's worth investing in, that's worth putting your books into.
Yeah, along those same lines, I would just say, just like publishing and distributing your books wide to give your readers every opportunity to find your books, to make your books more discoverable, why not put your books in every format that you can as well, to give your readers more choice into how they prefer to read a book, whether that's audio, print, or ebooks. So great question, Anas. Thank you for that. All right, moving right along. And of course, we're just like, time is clicking. So I want to try to get to as many questions as I can here. Oh, Tara. So when we say with our print on demand with D2D print, when we say global distribution, we're not talking about we're sending out all these books and they're landing on physical store shelves in all these brick and mortar stores around the world. What does that actually mean?
It's still a file. It's print on demand. So it's still a file that is being distributed out there. And then all the various websites will show your book. It will be listed as a paperback and it will show your book. And when me as the reader demands a copy gets drop shipped and printed and shipped to this reader. So it's not books on shelves. It's not books on shelves. It is a file in an inventory system that can be printed and shipped. So don't let that confuse you. That comes up quite a bit when they're saying, I walked into my Barnes & Noble and my book's not on the shelf. Barnes & Noble could order it. They absolutely can order it. They have it in their inventory system. So it could be a book that they potentially put on their shelf. But no, it doesn't just automatically mean we're filling up shelf space with printed books.
Okay, and a follow-on question to that, if I may. How long does it take for our DDD print books to gain inclusion in our partners' wholesale catalog that's used by these retailers and libraries worldwide?
It's actually really, really quick. Once you get through the review system, and we're a human is looking through your book and checking it for all the various possible little gotchas. Margins are okay, things like that. It goes out and gets ingested very, very quickly. You would see it up and live and visible on the various different store sites within 48, 72 hours of making through review. So it is a very quick system because, again, it's still a file that's being ingested. And then as far as print is concerned, once the book is ordered, our vendor can get these printed within a matter of a week. Shipping obviously depends on where you're shipping to. If you're shipping across borders, that can take a little bit longer, but it's a very rapid process.
Okay, thanks, Tara. Just want to show some appreciation to you real quick. This is from Linda French, who's watching online. Linda says, Tara, just want to say I've always had great customer service and help whenever I've emailed with issues or questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Linda. That is so kind of you.
Yeah, I just want to give just some credit to the support team. Our support team isn't very large, and they are they're helping authors with email support. They're the ones reviewing your books to make sure that they're up to vendor compliance. They're the ones reviewing the print books. They're the ones handling account issues. Our support team is everywhere, and they have their hands in all of the help that gets to your author books over to the vendors and keeps them there.
Not to mention handling questions from people like me within the company saying, how do I do this, you guys? Okay, well, we have a few more minutes left. I want to make sure that we at least a little bit cover sales reporting, royalties, and payments. Okay, can we do that real quick?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
That's a common question, especially as we've worked to integrate all of our Smashword authors over. I'm sure we are doing it slightly different than Smashword did it. So great question. It comes up a lot. Be sure when you, the author, are looking at your reports. So you go into your account and you click on reports. There is a button that says charts. Those charts can be refined to show you all kinds of information. Play around with that page. I have found that a lot of authors don't even look or try to push the buttons, so they don't know it's there. They just don't realize that it's even there. Go to your charts page and take a look. You will see a button that says chart content, and you will see another button that says right next to it that says chart structure. You have the ability to pull up your cells by vendor, by book title, by date, by sales price, by contributors. You have the ability to show yourself free sales, paid sales, both. There is a lot of tools there that you may not know exists. And I would love it if everyone would take a minute and go over there and take a look. As far as payout cycles, we pay on the 15th of the month, every month that royalties are due. Our vendors have various time frames. Smashwords being Draft2Digital, you will get paid the following month. So you make a sale in March, you can expect payment in April. Other vendors take sometimes a month. Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, you make a sale in March, you get paid in May. And then we've got a few vendors that are a little bit slower. Print, they're collecting from a worldwide network of vendors. So they can take 90 days after the sale has completed to issue payment. So that does cause a lot of confusion because we don't hold all of your March sales until every vendor has sent payment. We try to get you that money as quickly as we can. So we're going to send, even if all we have is Smashword sales, we're still going to pay you for that. But you may be receiving your March Smashword sales next month, and then you might be receiving your Apple March sales the month after that, and so on and so forth. So it kind of does get a little bit confusing. But we send out reports that outline everything you're getting by each vendor every single month. So we try to make it as transparent and clear as we can.
Thanks, Tara. And I want to remind everybody, for those of you who have signed up to receive the Indie Advantage, which is Draft2Digital's monthly newsletter, in December of last year, our colleague Mark Leslie Lefebvre wrote a really great article. It was a primer on Draft2Digital sales reports. Read through that because it provides different steps, it provides screenshots and whatnot. If you haven't subscribed to that newsletter, you can find that simply by going to the Draft2Digital blog. So that's draft2digital.com/blog, and do a quick search on sales reports, and that should come right up for you if you want to learn more about that stuff. Let's see. There was a question here about print, and we're running a little bit over time, and I wanted to get to it. Tara, you mentioned some print gotchas, and Layla Bell VT just said, so what are some of those common print gotchas? Can you take a few seconds to talk about some of those, Tara?
Yes. Check your own file. I very, very professional authors, and let's just say they notice one mistake on one page and they're trying to swap out one page of a file. I've literally had one page missing its page number. URLs, long URLs, when you see those, that there's think about it written out, not a link that you click on your keyboard, but written out. There's no breaks in a URL, and that URL will literally run right off the page because there's no breaks in it. So that's another gotcha that I have found so many of, just URLs that literally run right off the page. Your images, make sure your images are centered on the page. And then I think one of the last things that I often tell people is buy a proof copy without fail. Once you have a copy in your hand, I don't know what it is. It's just a change of scenery. You may have read this book 300 times on your computer, but once you get that copy in your hand, you're going to spot the typo.
Yep,
and I promise you will want to fix it before you have 100 copies to hand out to friends and family and fans. So copy in hand, and you're going to spot something that you would prefer be changed. So always do a proof copy. I know everyone runs really tight on their schedules and they're down to the wire and they've got a conference coming up, but give yourself time so that you are happy with your final product.
Yeah. We are at time, and I knew this was going to go by really, really quickly. I really appreciate both of you for joining. One really quick last question for you, Tara. What's something that authors can do that makes a support rep happy? What can they do that can make the day for somebody on the customer support team?
Sure. That's a good question. We often hear when we mess up. We often hear when we do it wrong. We often hear when it's always lovely. Like when Linda wrote that message and said, "You guys have been great. You're really helpful." That makes our day. we share that with the entire company. When those type of emails come in, we share it with the entire company because it's a team. It's a team effort. It's not just customer support. We've got operations doing so much work for us. We've got dev building out this whole platform and making sure it runs smoothly all the time. Anytime you guys say thank you, the entire company hears it and appreciates it. So I would say we love working with you, and we love hearing when we get it right as well as when we get it wrong. That just makes our day.
Yeah, and I just wanted to bring up, as someone who got my origins in the support team, like, always remember that you are speaking with people. Like, these are other humans on the other end, and like Lissa points out, when people are writing into support, very often they have something that's going wrong. They're having issues.
Right.
So these are support people who have dedicated their time at Draft2Digital to help people when they need help. Remember to be kind, remember to be understanding, and also remember that, like, they're here to help you. Just give them the information so they can help you, and everyone can leave that email, leave that conversation on a happier note.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Well, we are at time. We're actually over time by 6 minutes. I just want to, again, Lexi, Tara, thank you guys both very, very much for the time today. I really appreciate the expertise, the insight, and the knowledge. You guys always blow my mind. But at the same time, I'm always thinking, oh my God, there's so much that I don't know about this company that I work for. But it's great. We all have our own little channels of expertise. For our viewers out there, you guys, thank you for joining us week in and week out. We so appreciate you. And we also appreciate some of the new viewers out there who are joining us perhaps for the first time. I see the new names out there, and it makes us all happy, puts a smile on our faces. So thank you. Welcome. If you enjoyed this episode, if you can do us a favor and share it with your author friends, we really appreciate that, because it helps put more eyeballs onto content like this. And it also helps us attract other guests to come and join us week in and week out. If you want to stay in the loop on what topics and guests that we have coming in subsequent weeks, you can bookmark d2dlive.com. That's the letter D, the number 2, another D, d2dlive.com. To bookmark that page, you'll get the inside input on what's coming up next. And finally, if you are investigating self-publishing, perhaps for the first time, check us out. Go to draft2digital.com and sign up for an account. That's all I've got for us this week. Thanks again, everybody, for spending a part of your day with us. We hope to see you all here at the same time next week. Take care, you guys. Thank you all for joining.
Ebooks are great, but there's just something about having your words in print. Something you can hold in your hands, put on a shelf, sign for a reader. That's why we created D2D Print, a print-on-demand service that was built for you. We have free, beautiful templates to give your book a pro look, and we can even convert your ebook cover into a full wraparound cover for print. So many options for you and your books. And you can get started right now at draft2digital.com.